Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gyle here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. Pro-level ladder action incoming your way this afternoon, chaps. First of all, though, quick piece of housekeeping. I haven't done it for a while, so I know you forgive me. Guys, going out to my newest subscribers, hello and welcome. First of all, fantastic to have you on board. Thank you for subbing. And if you enjoy what you see, or you like what you see, but you're not 100% sure what it is you are looking at, the game is Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. Not, I repeat, not Supreme Commander 2. It's available on Steam for £10 or $15 or whatever the equivalent is in your local currency, and all you need to do to come play with us here at FAF, it doesn't matter if you have a digital download edition from Steam or in fact a retail copy, all you need to do once you have that game installed is download the Forged Alliance Forever multiplayer client, and you can find a link to that in the description below this video. What will that allow you to do? Well, it'll allow you to come play with us on any of a number of built-in modes or game modes or mods cunningly woven into the fabric of the system by Zep and his team of little wizards. Or indeed, it'll allow you to browse our mods vaults, our replay vaults, our map vaults. It'll allow you to check out our forums, or indeed just hang out and chat with any of the number of friendly Germans that happen to be online at that time. Joke, there are in fact many nationalities. We've got Americans, we've got Russians, we even have a Belgian guy who's pretty good. But I have to say, of all the communities I've ever been a part of, this one is by far the friendliest, the funniest, and just the nicest in every possible way. So if that isn't a decent advert for coming along to join us, I don't know what is. Anyway, that's enough of that. Like I said, it's going to be a ladder match, and it's all going to go down on Eye of the Storm. So you guys are ready, I'm ready, the players are ready. Let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So we're all pretty familiar with Eye of the Storm. Let's take a look at our players up here at the top left in the blue corner. It's none other than Pachuriko, or as we know him by another name, Petrick Pawns. Why he changed it, I don't know. I always love Petrick Pawns. And he's opened first land, gone Aeon. He then went second land, but changed that up. Thought better of it, went second air. So nice mix early on from him. Going to be dipping a toe into both land and air game early on, it would seem. And his opponent down here at the bottom right in the red corner, it's none other than our friend, our quintessential Zockyzock, or Zock. And he's gone the very attractive, the very noble UEF and open first land. It's going to keep us guessing about where he's going for the second factory. Now, while we wait for these guys to make their initial builds, we are expecting nothing but engineers off the block for the start. There's a huge body of water, if you hadn't noticed, in the middle on Eye of the Storm. It kind of prevents any early harassment with anything other than air, and since none of these guys went first air, we're not going to be seeing any super early bombers coming out in this one. But in terms of meta, we expect to see the two ACUs expand to the redundant corners at the bottom left and the top right. Usually, and I say usually, you usually see the top guy move off to the right and the bottom guy move off to the left. Why is that? Well, it's just generally safer. You're securing these extra mexes as you walk past them with the ACU. So that's generally what they do, but we'll see as this one evolves. Every now and again you'll get two ACUs ending up in the same corner, and actually that doesn't make for a great game. That usually means some guy is going to go pop reasonably early on, but we'll see how this one develops. Scout plane out for Petrick on its way down to the bottom right as we speak, and Zock indeed did go second air. In fact, he's going air all day. He's gone second, third and fourth air, and then he queues up two more land factories after that. Whether or not that's the actual build order that goes down once these engineers get working, that might have been an alternative group of engineers. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. But we have now got a scout plane out for Zock as well. That's heading up towards the middle, but it's going to run straight into an interceptor there from Petrick that blasts that out of the sky without any difficulty whatsoever. Engineers making their way to the central island. Meanwhile, Zock is going to get there first, it would seem. And what's he going for? He's beelining straight for the reclaim. Not a bad move. Pick that up as soon as possible. Now we're getting some serious interceptor action over the middle, but it's going badly for Zock. That looks like that could be at least 2-to-1 killing going on in the middle there. There goes another interceptor. That's definitely not gone too well in the first couple of minutes. Air game for Zock. Zock's also reached the bottom left-hand corner with a striker and a snoop, and now making his way up north, going to be wanting to catch off or catch out any engineers that would fall foul of their paths. Another striker and a snoop making their way to the top right-hand corner, although that's likely to run headfirst into Pachuriko's ACU, who is indeed moving to the right-hand corner top right-hand corner, as we predicted. But Zock, never wanting to stick with tradition, is going to head straight for the middle with his ACU. And it's an interesting option there, because yes, he's likely to be able to secure that, at least for the moment. But on a map like Eye of the Storm, you're going to generally expect a long, persistent, drawn-out naval battle that evolves over the course of the game. And so, of course, that naturally makes the middle island tough to hang on to. One kill on that bomber up top for Zock, and now it goes to harass that ACU. Zock also picking off a few straggling, what looked like an Aurora there, making it onto the edge of the natural harbour area for Zock's base. Picks that off with the bomber, but that bomber promptly gets shot down. Lots of early action going on all over the place. Tough to bring you the salient points, but I'll do the best I can. Another little kill there for this bomber over in the east as it tries to keep this little group of land units at bay, prevent it from going after the northern fringes of Zock's base. Picks off another Aurora, but that interceptor comes in from Petrick and blasts it aside. Zock, now in control of all 4 mexes in the center, goes for a land factory and is now receiving a little bit of air harassment from Petrick, repaying the favor from the trouble that Zock was giving his own ACU up here. But really, one bomber not going to cause any problems for an ACU. And now Zock has that land factory online. He starts producing some ground units, and rather unsurprisingly, the first one off the bat, apart from the Snoop, is going to be an Archer. A little bit of anti-air coverage to protect those middle mexes. A couple of interceptors flying overhead for him as well as we speak. Zock, content with the establishment that he's put together on that central island, moves the ACU away, but then suddenly realizes, holy crap, what is all of this blue stuff coming into the middle? He doesn't really talk like that, but I don't know. I felt like that was the way it was taking me. Brings his ACU back into the center to try and defend. 2 of those mexes already down. There goes the 3rd and then the 4th. All of Zock's hard work cunningly blasted aside. And this is why this seemed like an unusual choice for me, not to go with the meta, take that ACU off down to the bottom left. But certainly, at least for the moment, he's got enough to secure that. Not many units heading south at all at the moment for Petrick. Let's take this down to 0 regular speed, because lots of developments have been going on as I've been prattling away. We've got Spectres out for Petrick, so we've got T2 gunships on the field, transition to T2 air. We've now got a chariot dropping engineers off all over the shop, just generally on a capping spree. We've also got the first few naval units emerging into the game. It was a Sylph for Petrick and a Thunderhead frigate there for Zock. And that's going to go better for Petrick if those two get embroiled, of course, in an engagement. That frigate not going to be able to do anything against that submarine. And more submarines on the way for Petrick. And now we're finally seeing some Tiger Sharks under construction for Zock as well. Lots of people wishing I would zoom in more. It's kind of difficult, especially at this level, to keep up with the action. But a nice little maneuver there from Petrick. Got a smaller number of aircraft in behind the main body of Zock's interceptors and picked off quite a few. Definitely a minor lapse in concentration there from Zock. Could have done with turning those around, but their main priority was dealing with the Spectres that have been harassing the central island. See if there are any more about. Not for the moment, but we've got a front emerging over on the east shore here between Petrick and Zock. Well, it wouldn't be between anyone else. Good one, Gyle. They're the only ones playing. Moving on. More engagements over here in the west. Zock making life difficult for these smaller mexes dotted around the place for Petrick. Petrick actually backing up with a whole bunch of Auroras. Slightly concerned, I suppose, by the amount of strikers heading up this coastline here in the west. Petrick gonna queue up a PD, but decide ultimately that's got to go further back if he's going to have any success, and he's not going to have any success there either. The engineer gets taken down not long after that PD is started. How's things going over in the east? Well, a few mexes being taken out here by Petrick. The odd fervor here, able to take those down nice and quickly, but a cheeky little engineer just comes out and starts reclaiming those artillery pieces. I was talking about a Gyle cast drinking game earlier. One of the rules is every time I say cheeky, you have to drink. So if you're watching, don't be cheeky. Spectres now out Corley for defense for Petrick, with a decent amount of swift winds to cover as well. This is kind of interesting. It looked like Zock was making a major play for air in this game with those early 3 air factories, but for the moment the initiative in the air definitely with Petrick. However, Zock just completing transition to T2 air. That may change the game up a little bit. Of course, naturally Aeon with the advantage in the air game. Those Spectres picking off units of build capacity before they can finish off the static emplacements in this bottom left hand corner. Just manages to finish off that unit of PD as it was leaving. It's like the pilot flew off and just spat out the window as he went, killing it off very nicely indeed. But definitely the air game going well here for Petrick in the first 12 minutes. And now this other peninsula under pressure. Zock bringing in more inties to try and finish off that last gunship, but too many swift winds in the area. It's just going to eat those interceptors as they fly into the zone. And down go another 2 mexes as a result. Let's take a look at Eco. We haven't talked about it at all. 56 to 53 for the moment in favor of Petrick. Let's take a look at Reclaim though. 3,200 banked for Petrick and Zock on 3,900. So generally a very close game so far. Zock getting some work done in the air, but on this side of the map with T1 bombers. Those bombers though don't last too long, getting blapped out of the sky by that defending group of inties there for Petrick. Another mechs succumbing to this air power. Zock got to get a handle of this one, or he could find this game slipping away from him. But in come a few more naval units for Petrick into the harbour area here. Doesn't want to lose these Tiger Sharks. One of them down. And a few more coming in to defend. Must have been stationed further out. More chariots about the map, dropping off engineers for Petrick, picking up these mass points that are available to grab. The Spectres have done phenomenal work. And of course, the minute I say it, it gets popped. But 11 kills on that one, mostly build capacity and mexes. That's what's kept Petrick ahead in this one so far, despite the fact that Zock seems firmly in control of the centre. A modest little incursion down here by Petrick. Doesn't seem to be going too well. Horrible place to land your planes, Petrick. That will get you fined all day by the proverbial UEF traffic wardens who steam on past and deny. That was definitely a major error there from Petrick. He takes out his swift winds, but still manages to lose one more on the way out. How are we looking elsewhere for air power? Well, if we take a look at what Petrick's got left in the sky, he has got a decent number of swift winds on the field though. A few back here, 7 in total, plus another 6 interceptors. Zock, by contrast, mostly interceptors, 16. And you might be wondering, if you're newer to this game, well, he's reached T2 air. Why isn't he producing Janus? Well, Janus, excellent at air-to-ground as fighter bombers are, will lose out in a battle with a Swiftwind, which of course is a the Aeon T2 aircraft, and that doesn't actually have air-to-ground capabilities, the Swiftwind, but as a result is significantly more proficient in air combat. So efficiency-wise, it makes sense to stick with the interceptor for air-to-air firepower until you reach T3 and go straight for ASS. But this could be a major problem, major blow for Zock. He's lost control of the bottom left-hand corner. What the units he's got left on the ground are backing up towards the static emplacement he's got further back, but he's not got a great deal on the ground. Petrick edging ahead in Eco 65 to 57 so far, coming in with a few bombers to re-establish some kind of game here in the bottom, but he's not going to get a great deal done with that. Too many thistles in this body of troops. And more scout planes going to fall foul for those as well. This is great work by Petrick, who, I gotta say, has a phenomenal attention span, excellent ability to multitask. He really does maneuver the spam and create the spam and adjust the spam in such a way as to make life incredibly difficult for his opponent. A few people better at hurling large amounts of units to all corners of a map. Zock able to stifle the progress over here on the eastern shore meanwhile. But lots of T2 amphibious units on the field now for Petrick. And even a few for Zock as well, as Riptide's wandering around. Perfect choice of unit for a map such as this. Excellent mobility. A couple of frigates up there on the west there for Zock. And he's made the transition to T2 Navy. Destroyer now on the field. And we're not seeing any T2 Navy yet from Petrick, so a little bit more of the commitment into the naval side of things, the naval game from Zock. But look at the amount of ground he's given up on the southern shoreline. And now we're seeing some stingers coming in for Zock to help try and drive back these ground forces. Petrick comes in to deal with the stingers. Needs to be careful, doesn't want to spend any extra time over the top of those skyboxers if he can avoid it. Or that skyboxer and that archer cause him a great deal of issues. But as you can see, Petrick now getting established in the bottom left-hand corner, and that more than wipes out the advantage that Zock gained by going for the middle, because not only does Petrick now gain those 4 mexes at the bottom left, it now makes it harder for Zock to re-establish himself on these 5 mexes here. He's going to have to try and dislodge Petrick from this entire area to make those safe. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially when he's facing a player who has clearly made such a major commitment to the air game, as Petrick has done. Couple of naughty Riptides making their way onto the edge of the harbour there, going to pick off another of Petrick's mexes. 61 to 49 in favour of Petrick still though. 6,200 banked so far for Petrick, 6,400 for Zock, so Petrick has also caught up in the reclaim side of things. This is the sort of stage in the game then when you start to see a player who has been behind on generated mass slip even further behind when the reclaim starts to even out between the two players. Advantage now slipping away. Zock pulling these naval forces back in the face of all of this amphibious craft coming his way. Bulwark shields now making an appearance, and a wise choice in that governor. You might possibly have wondered why he didn't get more destroyers on the field first. While that would have been helpful against all of this amphibious stuff, his major problem with expanding has been the air power that Petrick is wielding at the moment. The governor, of course, will force Petrick to avoid this fleet with those swift winds, and of course any gunships, any stingers, not stingers, what I'm talking about, any spectres or the skimmers, the torpedo bombers, which Petrick has gone for. But with the loss of that bulwark ship, governor is now wide open. In comes the skimmers, and indeed they are beelining straight for the governor. A few torpedoes away. That drops that cruiser down to just 1500 HP. But look at the work while we've been looking elsewhere. Zock has managed to do in the bottom left. He's forced Petrick back out of that corner. I say I'm kind of surprised. Wasn't expecting that. That's been done all with stingers pretty much, and interceptor coverage, and maybe with a small smattering of riptides, which we've got in there. But Zock still needs to get build capacity over here to take advantage of the territory he's recently captured. He needs to get in there and exploit that mass as soon as possible. Petrick up here at the top right already has some shield coverage up here with some TMD, so trying to establish some basic defenses up there. But it's the quantity of amphibious craft which is making life difficult for Zock. Large group of engineers on board that courier, presumably heading out to the bottom left. There we go. Riptides pushing up, meanwhile, in force along the western coastline. Fervors on the edge there, not going to be any match at all for those Riptides as they plough their way through and onto the land. A little incursion now from Petrick. Blazes versus Riptides. Two of the mexes taken down once again for Zock. Riptide surviving with just 97 HP. But quick smash and grab and back out again. That's the way to do it. Pick off some eco, move back out, keep your units alive. And speaking of units that are still alive, this band of Riptides still presenting a problem for Petrick, and he'd love to be marching now up here or making some problems for Zock in and around his base, but for the moment just not possible. And Zock very wide out here on his Todd. ACU marching back after a couple of fervors dispatching that mechs that he was standing by. Decent number of stingers picking off some auroras over in the east. Petrick looks like he's going to dispatch to intercept. He's got to be careful. A few skyboxes on that central island could make life difficult, and that looks like it's where the gunships are heading. There they all go, except for one. Zock responds by bringing in his air force to shoo those swift winds away. But Zock has caught up marvelously got to be said. 72 now, or 71 to 81. Of course, the minute I say it, it changes again. But that will be down to recapturing the bottom left. 9 mexes not to be sniffed at all. And of course, as this game goes on, the natural advantage in the naval game will shift towards the UEF. There's no question that they have the stronger naval forces. To see if Petrick can make his air force count as this game progresses. A couple of stingers getting pummeled up here as they try and harass Petrick's eco a little bit more. But too many swift winds in the area to prevent those from causing any major difficulties. But now we're getting a decent little naval engagement brewing here. And Zock's going to want to keep his eyes on this. Doesn't want to allow these two fleets just to engage one another. He's got a micro against those Exodus destroyers, of which there are none. Talking absolute garbage. All frigates. Frigates and Vespers, with a few sylphs mixed in there. But Petrick's certainly got enough of them. Actually driving Zock back into his base. Zock hurriedly building torpedo launchers. Of course, that's not going to have any effect against all of the amphibious units that are pouring into the harbour as well. There's a ton of blazes in here now. Now, a little bit of an air engagement potentially as well. Petrick wisely deciding not to get too involved. Backs up. That's an awful lot of interceptors that Zock has accrued over the last 15 minutes or so. But still, 28.5 minutes gone in this one so far. And Zock actually ahead eco-wise, albeit not by much. And 17,000 mass banked so far for Zock. Petrick on 19. So Petrick still ahead on reclaim. But it's incredibly close. There's virtually no daylight between these two in terms of economic advantage. Dancing backwards and forwards between the two. What have we got brewing up here? Well, not a great deal of movement in production power. Zock upgrading a second naval factory there to T2. But wants to be very careful of exposing destroyers to odds like that. Loses a Valiant there. Petrick using these naval forces and these amphibious forces to great effect so far in this one. Sends another couple of units down there to the bottom left to harass, but Riptides are lying in wait. A few units of build capacity out here on a reclaim mission. They're going to get thumped immediately by all the blazes sitting out there. And I don't know what that's down to, but suddenly 132 mass popped up for a moment there. Must have been a momentary spike from reclaim or something. It looked for a moment Petrick had soared ahead in terms of eco, but that's not the case. handful of units trying to take down that T2 mechs, and gonna do it. A little bit of extra help from this destroyer back here. Now we're starting to see some Exodus class destroyers emerging from Petric. And say what you like about Aeon Navy, they do have the edge when it comes to direct fire bombardment. A few engineers being airlifted to the front by Petric. There's a lot of mass to be picked up here now. This naval conflict has been running for the best part of about 20 minutes. Repositioning of that destroyer, though, in order if he wants to get any of those rounds through the aperture there in the mounted side. Zock feeling like he's got enough units to chance moving out of the harbour area, and then thinking better of it. He's only got the one shield boat in there, and that's now depleted, so extra protection for the moment until this other one that's just rolled off the production line gets into the mix. And this could be crucial now as these two fleets tangle. A few Riptides coming off that central island to assist, while at the same time the Blazes move forward to get inside the shield. It's almost worth throwing those away to make sure they kill those shield boats. Really open this up for Petric, as Zock is forced right back into his harbour. And now we really do have some destroyers teaming up at the front. And this could actually be a problem because, as we were saying before, to defeat the Aeon Navy, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar or a Nobel Prize winner. You just have to continue to micro because of the low or slow muzzle velocity on those rounds from the Exodus destroyers. But if you can't micro because you're confined in a small area, if you can't micro effectively and there's enough rounds incoming, then you're definitely going to lose out. Remember, of course, the destroyers, it's not just about the range and the firepower of those shells. They're also packing more HP on base than the UEF equivalent. 7,200 against 7,500, and there's another wave of 3 of them coming in as we speak. A few gunships up here harassing for Zock, going after these mexes. Petric is late to respond, but gets there in the nick of time. He's going to be able to wipe all those out without losing any of those mexes. A few of those T2 as well. Definitely an important step, hanging on to those. Petric's going to want to get these involved. He can use the range to harass Zock. You see the micro being employed there. Lots of donuts and U-turns. But like I say, definitely as the number of units increase, life gets harder and harder for Zock to maneuver. But we've got a transition to T3, and this could turn everything on its head. Zock hurriedly constructing a battle cruiser. And I think you can say that's in the nick of frickin' time, because he's getting beats from this Exodus barrage that's coming in through the entrance to the harbour. Destroyers going pop one after another, frigates going pop one after another, and finally that Neptune class battlecruiser is online and speeding towards the zone of conflict. Petrick has to kill that, and kill that quick. He's going to lose a lot in the process, though. 25,000 hit points is not to be laughed at. Is Petrick even aware? Well, he should be seeing it now. And there you can see the attack order from his fleet going down on Zock's battlecruiser. It is taking a kicking, there's no doubt about it. It's down to around 50% of his hit points. He's got the Vespers up front, of course, but they're not safe from the battlecruiser either. That's got torpedoes and torpedo defense. Out come a trio of Coopers, the torpedo boots, to shoo torpedo boats, sorry, to shoo those Vespers away. But very little movement elsewhere on the battlefield. This is where the game is currently being decided. These peninsulas have taken a bit of a kicking. Those three mexes out of commission, but another Neptune rolls onto the field. And that's surely going to be the end of this blockade for Petrick, who's made a transition to T3 himself. And that actually looks like an aircraft carrier he's got under construction there, but he's going to want to get some battleships in play to try and counter this emergence of T3. And now just a couple of destroyers remain for Petrick. Down they go in these forward naval factories. Won't be far behind them. Now we've got a few asylums rolling in, the mobile shield gens. Not anywhere near as effective as, of course, of the all-encompassing bulwark shield boats with their massive, massive circumference on that shield. Huge, huge diameter. But they can still take the edge off nonetheless in decent numbers. The question is, has Petrick lost too much in that last engagement? Is he now behind? Well, he's certainly ahead on eco by a comfortable margin. While Zock has been throwing everything into manufacturing T3 naval vessels, Petrick seems to have been upgrading his eco, 176 to 137. I'm taking a guess here that Zock might be ahead on reclaim now. No, he's not. He's behind, and behind by a comfortable margin. 38,000 coming up to 38,500, 39,000. Petrick sitting on around 56,000. So significant advantage there, and ahead on mass by a pretty sizable chunk. And once again, I was talking garbage. I made the assumption that that was an aircraft carrier by the size of the construction going on at that T3 naval factory, but it was in fact a battleship, and he's producing these nice and quickly now. Another one rolling out. Gonna want to get on that ASAP. That naval yard not producing anything for the moment, and interestingly still operating off T2 air for the moment. Hasn't made the transition to T3. Where are we at with Zock? Well, he's still at T2 as well, currently producing more Stingers to go with his horde of interceptors, which he's accrued over time. To add insult to injury, one governor a little bit further back for Zock, just flinging cruise missiles at Petrick. Very ill-advised place to park your torpedo boot. There it goes. Oh, I went all Canadian there. Your torpedo boot. Did they say that, or is it only on about? Couple of Canadian friends, they'd be very upset to hear me talking like that. If you are Canadian, you can address complaints to the comment section below this video. But this is just now looking like a rather impregnable fortress that Zock has hoarded together at the front of his harbour, looking significantly secure, or more secure I should say, than he did about 10 minutes ago. 43 going on 44 minutes gone in this one, and now we're getting summits emerging on the field. Will that represent a change in tactic for Zock? Now he's got that on the field. Certainly these Neptunes have been reluctant to engage these Omens. Another Omen on the field as well. Still looking at T2 air for Petrick. But look at this eco he's got here. Just needs to turn it into something to fight with. Of course, eco isn't everything. A couple of games ago we saw Petrick facing off against Blackheart in, I believe it's Epic 22. Where he was ahead on eco and map control for basically the whole game, but couldn't break Blackheart, who was playing UEF at the time as well. Doing a decent job of harassing these battle cruisers for the moment, but I'm not seeing the summit. Still back here. Actually looks like he's having a few problems getting it out of the harbour area, but surprisingly it can actually fire over the top of that land there and still hit its mark. I suppose it's not particularly high, that peninsula. It's pretty shallow things, and at the distance which these battleships are firing at, doesn't represent a major obstacle. 46 mass ahead now, Petrick. Zock says, yeah, it took him 10 minutes to free his battleship. But it's certainly free now, and free to engage. And this is indeed the time of the game where you start to see the UEF Navy really come into its own. Now this is an interesting choice. I'm surprised actually that Petrick hasn't decided to take one of these down here before. He could have busted all of this by now with just one battleship, but he will have wanted to try and break back in here if at all possible. Of course, not privy to all the information we are. He might have thought that that was a possibility. Probably well aware with the amount he's been upgrading his eco that he is ahead on mass, and so therefore would have been able to outproduce Zock in the T3 battleship side of things. Large amount of amphibious units though on the field. They're skirting right for Petrick. Lots though of frigates by contrast there for Zock, waiting for those to come in. Blazes moving under the first barrier there of shielding. Culls those small group of engineers, and then moves back out. But again, all of this intact. Admittedly, all of this bottom left-hand corner in terms of core mass starting location is T1. We have got a radar system down there that's T2, but T1 mexes as well, so I guess there's not a great deal to be gained there. That's the best part of 6 T1 mexes, so 12 mass per tick. At this stage of the game, with the sort of numbers we're talking about, that's not anything that's going to overwhelmingly change the direction the game is heading in, but you never know. Take your opponent's mass where you can. Vespers and Blazes leading the charge now against this large group of frigates. There are a few T2 units in here as well. A governor, a couple of governors in fact, some Coopers, torpedo boats. But despite the amount of omens emerging on the field, more ground being given by Petric. 49 minutes in this one so far, and this forward omen is about to die horribly. 2,900 hit points left, taken in a single volley from one of these summits. 20 kills between them so far. Another one rolling out. They really are the most colossally awesome units. Could listen to those cannons all day long. A large air engagement now over the top of those summits. And unfortunately for Petric, there are a few governors in the area as well. 4 now to be precise. Those swift winds might have the edge in tech, but against that superior number of interceptors and the surface to air fire coming off those cruisers, goes badly for Petric, who still hasn't made an adjustment, still hasn't decided to go into the T3 air game. Instead, he's thrown together a Tempest, probably hoping to outrange and out-bombard this Navy for Zock. That's an interesting decision. Not sure it's one I would have gone with. They're notoriously bad at maneuvering. Riptide's coming forward though for Zock in a tightly bunched group compared to the more spread out formation there for Petric, who reacquires with the Tempest and fires close range. But in come the Riptides now that he's realised what's there. I wouldn't be surprised if we really see an all-encompassing push now from this Navy to take that out. That represents an enormous investment. Take a look at how much that actually costs. I couldn't tell you without looking it up. Experimental battleship, 24,000 mass. How does that compare to a regular battleship? 9,000. So you get best part of 2.5 omens for that Tempest, which really didn't last that long. Down it goes. And out moves the build capacity to try and reclaim some of that investment. Cheeky tack missile launcher down here in the west. Take a drink if you're playing Gyle's drinking game. Going after these forward T3 mexes. Of course, one tack missile not enough to kill a T3, but a second one will sure as hell get the job done. There it goes. Petric well in the lead, and I'm actually beginning to think, as this game starts to go a little bit sour for Petric, he's a guy who ecos a little too hard. Needs to focus a little less on this mid to late game ecoing and a little bit more on spitting out more offensive stuff that's going to break his opponent, because if this continues in the vein in which I suspect it is going to, it's going to represent a loss, I think, for Petric. Zock's advance has been consistent over the last 10 or 15 minutes as he's broken out and moved around this side of the central island. It's got a nice mix in here of, well, I say mix, it's mostly all summits, but that one battle cruiser offering perfect coverage for those battleships, and Petric, knowing, sensing defeat, Control K's his comm, throws out the GG, and Zock wins it the day. Well, very nicely played from Zock. Actually, there was a moment down there where I thought Petric was sealing him in a little bit too much, but the emergence of that first battle cruiser and then the second turned things around, slaughtered all of those naval units hanging outside the harbour area, and after that it was a slow but continuous cascade of catastrophe for Petric as Zock just pushed his way out across the map and to such a point where he was knocking on the front door, and Petrick knew that was game. We also had a transition to T3 air there. You can see some spy planes coming over the top from Zock. So a couple of strap bombers thrown in on top of it, and that was going to be bad. We also had a few Percivals that had pushed their way up the eastern coast. We were so focused on the naval battle, we kind of neglected this side, although there wasn't a great deal going on over there for the majority of it. This is where people say, oh, actually, Gyle, there was about 10 experimentals engaging on that side, but certainly wasn't anything that drew my eye to it. But with Percivals bearing down on things up here, I think there was enough PD to kill at least one or two of them. But Petrick knew he was defeated. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. 5 minutes and 20 seconds short of epicosity, but a decent round for today nonetheless. As always, more to come from me in the future. In the meantime, though, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.